After a grueling night shift, a weary waitress climbs into what she thinks is her rideshare, only to discover too late that it's the wrong car. But the man behind the wheel isn't just any stranger. He's a mysterious millionaire with a plan no one's supposed to know about. And now, she's a part of it. One wrong ride, one twist of fate, and nothing in her life will ever be the same. Rain pounds against the window like a fierce symphony, and thunder crashes over the slick roof of a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. Inside, the flicker of fluorescent lights blends with the clatter of dishes and the sound of tired footsteps. Grace, 25, moves like a shadow between booths, balancing a tray with 2 cups of coffee and wearing a tired smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Her shoes are soaked, and her apron is stained with food from hundreds of strangers. Her body aches from an endless night shift. The clock above the register flashes 3:17 a.m. Outside, the storm shows no sign of letting up. She stuffs her tip money, a crumpled handful, into her coat pocket, waves goodbye to the sleeping cook, then steps out into the pouring rain, clutching her phone tight. The screen is cracked, battery at 1%. She booked a ride 15 minutes ago, and now all she wants is to slump into the back seat and slip into silence. Near the alley, a sleek black car is idling, the engine roaring, tinted windows glistening under the rain. The style and model look about right. Same color, same spot. No other cars in sight. Too tired to think twice. Grace rushes up, jerks open the back door, and jumps in, her wet coat leaving puddles on the leather seat. Finally, she mutters and slams the door shut behind her. "I thought it was you." A shrill voice cuts her off. She freezes. A gun barrel points at her head. In the front seat, a man in a dark jacket slowly turns around, his steel gray eyes unblinking, voice low and deadly. "Who are you?" he says coldly. "Who sent you to follow me?" Grace's heart pounds in her chest. "What? No. Wait. I just got off work. I thought this was... Don't lie to me." His voice tears through the air. "You know exactly where to find me. Who do you work for? I don't work for anyone." She yells, raising her hands in fear. "I'm just a waitress. I don't know who you are." For a moment, neither of them moves. The man's finger tightens on the trigger. Then something changes in his eyes. Hesitation, confusion, calculation. But before he can decide what to do next, boom, the passenger window shatters. Glass explodes inward. Grace instinctively ducks, screaming again as bullets pierce the car frame. "Get down," the man barks. Steering sharply, the car swerves forward, tires screeching on the wet asphalt. The chase turns chaotic as they plunge headfirst into the storm. The rain blurred the windshield, headlights cutting through the darkness. Another gunshot rang out behind them, then another. "Why are they shooting at us?" Grace shouted. "Quiet," the man barked. "You're the one who brought them here, aren't you?" "No, I swear I didn't." More gunfire. The rearview mirror shattered. The man hit the gas. They sped through streets and alleys, tires screeching, the city's edge flashing by in a blink. Grace clung to her seat, heart pounding, her mind racing to keep up with the nightmare unfolding around her. "Please," she sobbed. "Please. I don't know who you are. I don't know what this is about. I just want to go home. I just want to go home." The man didn't answer. He was too focused on driving like his life, and now hers depended on it. Finally, after what felt like forever, the gunfire stopped. Darkness fell behind them. Silence returned, broken only by heavy rain and the roar of the car engine. The man turned onto a deserted street lined with trees and dim streetlights, then drove into the parking lot of an abandoned warehouse. He turned off the engine, panting, still gripping the steering wheel tight. Grace didn't dare move. His voice, when it came, was hoarse but controlled. "What's your name, homie?" She whispered. "You really don't know who I am." "No, you're not one of them. I don't even know who they are." He stared at her for a long moment, then slowly lowered his gun. "I'm Lucas," he said. "Lucas Black." She stared at him, soaked and trembling, still pressed against the door like a cornered animal. "Who are you?" she asked. He looked away. "Not someone you've ever met." The rain stopped as they reached the industrial outskirts. Lucas drove behind an old textile factory, long abandoned, boarded up windows, and a partially collapsed roof. He parked behind a rusty shipping container, then quietly stepped outside. Grace hesitated, watching him disappear into the shadows before finally following, her wet shoes crunching with each step. Her hands shook from adrenaline and cold, but she refused to show weakness. Lucas pushed open a steel door on the side of the building and led her inside. The warehouse was dimly lit, scattered with equipment that looked untouched for years. But in the back corner was a makeshift setup, a mattress on crates, a portable heater, a desk with a surveillance monitor, and stacks of files and electronics. "Welcome to my palace," he muttered dryly, tossing a canvas bag onto the floor. Grace stood awkwardly near the entrance, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "Is this where you live right now? I just want to go home." "You can't. Can you?" She stepped back, worried. "You mean I can't?" He sighed and rubbed his face. "Your phone's dead. The street cameras caught your face when we ran from the diner. If I let you go out there, they'll track you down." "I can't afford that risk. So, what are you going to keep me here like a prisoner?" "No," Lucas said, locking eyes with her. "I won't tie you up, but I need you to stay put for your safety and mine, at least until I know what's really going on." Grace paced, breathing hard. "This is crazy. This can't be happening." Lucas poured water into a kettle and set it on a low flame. "Believe me, I'm not trying to drag anyone else into this." "Then let me go. If you scream and someone finds us, we're both dead," he snapped. "So no, I'm not taking that chance." She stopped. His voice grew serious. After a moment of silence, she collapsed into a metal chair. "Fine. Tell me what the hell is going on." Lucas handed her a dry blanket and a cup of warm water. Then, for the first time, he sat down across from her, not like a stranger with a gun, but like a man carrying a weight too heavy for one person. "I used to be someone else," he said softly. "Before the world found a way to destroy everything that made me human." Grace blinked. "Supposed to mean something to me. I was a government asset, an intelligence operative. Then I became a private contractor. Job security, cyber defense, top-tier stuff, making more money than I could spend. Got out before it tore me apart. Clearly, you didn't get out fast enough." Lucas sneered. "I thought I had until I found something, and they came after my family to keep me quiet." His voice hardened. "They burned down my company, drove my brother to suicide, almost killed my mother. They erased me from everything, so I let them think I was dead too." Grace sat quietly, the pieces slowly falling into place. "I'm not running anymore," Lucas continued. "I'm here to finish what they started." She swallowed hard. "And you think I'm just going to sit here and pretend that means something? I don't care if it does," he said. "I just need someone who doesn't know my past. Someone who can stand beside me without seeing the headlines. Someone who doesn't belong to this world but is trying to tear me down." Grace shook her head. "You don't even know me." Lucas stared at her for a long moment. "I know enough," he said. "You stepped into the wrong car and didn't run when the bullets started flying. That tells me more than most resumes." She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Great, so what am I now, your accidental companion? No," he said gently. "You're just a stranger." And for the first time in a long while, I started thinking maybe that's exactly what I need. The wind howled outside, but inside the warehouse, something shifted between them. A fragile thread of understanding, woven through the chaos of a storm neither of them chose. Days passed like that inside the abandoned warehouse. Outside, the rain kept falling, covering up the echoes of a past that haunted both Lucas and Grace. She kept to herself in a corner of the shelter. The silence slowly turned into cautious observation. Lucas was gone almost every day, only returning at night with bruises, intelligence reports, and a scowl on his face. Grace stayed behind, making tea, cleaning up, watching the wind blow through broken window panes. But curiosity kept pulling at her. On the fourth day, when Lucas went out for supplies, she gave in. He told her not to touch his files, but the folders were still open on the table, begging for answers. She skimmed through the pages, piecing together maps, receipts, and hacked correspondence. Then she froze. A black and white photo, a little wrinkled but unmistakable, was staring right back at her. Henry Vale. The name beneath the photo sent a chill down her spine. She gripped the page tighter, her breath catching in her throat. The man in the photo wasn't just a name in some corruption scandal or a company's bankruptcy. He was the man who destroyed her childhood, who manipulated her father into a fake investment scheme, the man who lied and drove her father to suicide. Grace was 16 then. She remembered the newspaper headlines, the police investigation, the pitying looks, the foreclosure notices. Her hands trembled as she pushed the pile of papers back. As she pushed the papers back, the pain in her chest flared up again after years of silence. She thought she had buried it. She thought it was over, but it wasn't. A few hours later, Lucas returned, soaked and exhausted, a faint scratch on his temple. He spotted her as soon as he walked in. "What's wrong?" Grace didn't answer. She threw the photo onto the table. "Why him?" she said, her voice trembling. "Why is he the one you're after?" Lucas tensed, his eyes flicking to the photo. "You've gone through my file. I have a right to know that man. He didn't just hurt you. He destroyed my family. My dad trusted him. He invested every last penny. We lost our house. My sister dropped out of school to support us. My dad..." Her voice broke. Lucas's expression softened. "He took his own life." Grace blinked to hold back tears. "You know, I suspected," Lucas said quietly. "I followed dozens of similar patterns. Good people ruined by Vale's schemes. But I didn't realize it affected you too." Grace stared at him. "You should have told me. I didn't think it mattered." "Yes, it does," she snapped, "because I thought I was just a mistake in your plan, a waitress who got in the wrong car. But now it feels like there's something else." Lucas stepped closer, resting his hand on the edge of the table. "You think I planned this? I don't know what to think," Grace said, voice trembling. "But I know people deserve to fall, and I'm not just going to sit here while you take him down without me." Lucas's eyes locked on hers. A fresh spark flickered between them. Not suspicion, not doubt, but recognition. "A shared fire," he said slowly. "I've spent years planning this alone. No name, no attachment, but maybe, just maybe, this isn't an accident." Grace stepped closer too. The distance between them was fading. Maybe the universe was giving them a second chance, a way to reclaim what was stolen. The silence stretched for a moment, heavy with history. "Finally," Lucas nodded, "we do this smart and clean, no angry revenge. We expose him, destroy him legally, financially, publicly." Grace sneered bitterly. "Sounds like you almost believe in justice," Lucas said. "I believe in ending monsters the way they end us, but with their names intact." She looked down at the file, then back at him. "Then let's burn him down together." At that moment, something shifted. They were no longer strangers caught by coincidence. They were partners, two broken souls bound by scars deeper than anything they dared to say out loud. The fight had become personal. But for the first time in years, neither felt alone. The next morning, Grace stood by the dusty warehouse window, her eyes fixed on the morning mist rolling like waves outside. She no longer felt like a prisoner or an outsider. Something had changed overnight. Something inside her had awakened. "I have an idea," she said without turning around. Lucas, sitting at the table sharpening a small pocket knife, looked up. "Sounds dangerous already." Grace turned around, her eyes steady. "Vess will be at the Haverly Foundation Gala next week. It's his annual show donating $1 million to charity while laundering 3 times that behind the scenes." Lucas frowned. "How do you know that I might be a waitress? But I'm not deaf. Rich folks like to talk to you, like you're their furniture. I served drinks at that party 3 years running." Lucas leaned forward. "You want to go back? I want to get close enough to record him. Find out who's working with him. We need real proof that can blow this wide open. This isn't a game. Grace, that crowd plays dirty. If they catch a whiff, you won't be harmless at all. That's why I need you to teach me," she said, stepping closer. "Not just how to record. I want to learn how to protect myself." Lucas's eyes darkened slightly. "Are you sure I'm not scared anymore?" Grace said softly. "I don't want to run anymore. I want to fight." Over the next 3 days, the warehouse turned into a makeshift training camp. Lucas taught her how to spot surveillance, blend in without being noticed, how to press a button inside her sleeve to activate a hidden recorder. She learned to read lips from across the room, how to smile while watching the exits, how to disarm a man twice her size. You learn fast, Lucas admitted one evening when Grace threw him off balance during a self-defense drill. They both fell to the ground, laughing hard. But maybe I've been training my whole life without realizing it, she replied, brushing hair from her face. He smiled. It was the first time she'd seen his smile reach his eyes. That night, during a modest meal of canned soup and crackers, Grace stared at the glowing device in her palm. Again, their eyes met over the tiny recorder, no bigger than a coin. Afraid, Lucas asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. I used to be, not anymore. Their eyes locked over the candle burning between them. Silence filled the room, warm and heavy. Grace spoke softly, her voice barely a whisper. For the first time in years, I don't feel like a victim. Lucas reached across the table, his fingers touching hers. He said nothing. He didn't have to. He squeezed her hand a little tighter. An unspoken vow passed between them. It's not a romantic story, not yet, but something real, raw, and waiting. By the weekend, they were ready. Grace was no longer the waitress who accidentally got in the wrong car. She was stepping into danger with her head held high, a steady heart, and a burning purpose inside her. And beside her, Lucas, a man who once trusted no one, had finally found someone worth fighting for. The Haverly Foundation Gala sparkled like a scene from a movie. Grace stood in a borrowed black dress, hair swept back, an earring hidden beneath a lock of hair. She blended in with the serving staff, carrying a silver tray of champagne glasses as she moved through the glittering ballroom. Her heart pounded. Lucas's calm voice echoed in her ear. You okay? He was by the north wall, talking to a man in a gray vest. That's our target. Grace spotted Henry Vale immediately. He looked older than his photo, but no less smug, laughing, clapping a guy on the shoulder, swirling a whiskey glass like the world owed him nothing, and he owed the world even less. He didn't recognize her. Grace moved closer, careful, playing her role perfectly. Champagne, sir. He barely glanced at her. Keep 'em coming. She bowed and backed away, her heart racing as the tiny recorder hidden inside her dress was activated. Through the chatter, she heard it. Vale was discussing a new shell company. Vale was talking about a new shell company with offshore funding, a name she recognized from one of Lucas's red-flagged files. That's enough. She stepped away, hiding behind a curtain to escape, and nearly ran into a man dressed in black. A security guard. Too vigilant. Too quick. Where do you think you're going? He asked. Grace smiled too quickly. The restroom. He looked at her now empty tray. You're not staff. She took off running. A shout rang out right behind her as she reached the emergency exit. Lights flashed. Alarms blared. The chase began through service corridors, down steel stairs, out into an alley, out into the alley. She ran, breath ragged. She ran, panting, gripping her heels tightly. From the shadows, a motorcycle roared forward. Lucas, get on, he shouted. She jumped onto the back just as another soldier appeared, reaching for a weapon. A bike sped forward, tires screeching on the wet pavement. As they turned a corner, a pipe swung out from a second man dressed in black. Too fast to dodge, Lucas shielded Grace with his body. He got hit hard on the shoulder. He groaned but didn't slow down. Grace clung to him tightly, trembling as they disappeared into the night. Back at the warehouse, she helped him off the bike, her hands shaking. You're hurt. I've been through worse, he mumbled, sweat still dripping down his forehead. She told him to sit down, tore part of his jacket to expose a deep bruise spreading across his back. You need a hospital. No hospitals. They'd track us. She wiped the wound with trembling hands, pressing the gauze as firmly as she could. He flinched but didn't complain. After a long silence, Lucas looked at her, his voice almost a whisper. He thought he could keep her on the edge, safe, away from what he'd become. Grace paused, staring at him. He went on, eyes darkening, but she stepped in and did what he never had the courage to do. He reached out, taking her hand, his blood-stained fingers trembling slightly. If things go wrong, I'll never forgive myself. Grace didn't answer. She just squeezed his hand tighter. And for the first time, Lucas Black, the man who trusted no one, let himself lean on her warmth. They crossed a line not just in the mission, but in each other's lives. Finally, the rain stopped. The night outside the warehouse was quiet, a rare stillness wrapping the world like it was catching its breath after the storm. Inside, the temporary base was bathed in dim light from an old desk lamp. Grace sat in the corner, knees pulled tight to her chest, while Lucas, still bandaged after the escape, moved slowly, lost in thought. For the first time since their wild journey began, there was no immediate danger, no alarms or hurried footsteps. Almost peaceful, and that peace scared Grace more than she wanted to admit. She watched Lucas pace, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the maps and files scattered across the table. She knew he was planning their next move, but all she felt was the growing distance between them, a gulf no longer created by secrets, but by what they could never be. Grace's thoughts became chaotic. The last few days had changed her. She was no longer the invisible waitress fumbling through life, too numb to dream. She had risked her life. She had faced the man who destroyed her family. But she still couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas belonged to another world, a world of power, choices, second chances, a world she was never given. She stood quietly, about to sneak out just to take a walk, just to breathe some fresh air. But Lucas stopped her with a soft, tense voice. "Where are you going?" Grace hesitated. He saw the backpack on her shoulder, her worried expression. "You're leaving, aren't you?" She swallowed hard, avoiding his eyes. "Maybe I should go." "Lucas, you don't need me anymore. You have what you came for. You have the evidence. You can take down Vale." He stepped toward her, wincing from the pain in his hip. "This isn't how it's supposed to be." She shook her head. "Is it? You're the one with everything to lose. I'm just me, someone in the wrong place, at the wrong time. I'm not like you. I don't belong in your world. You're a millionaire. I'm just trying to survive." Lucas's voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. "Do you really think that's all you see when you look at me?" Grace felt her throat tighten. "I don't know what you see. I only know what I see when I look in the mirror. A waitress, a girl with a broken family, someone fighting for scraps, for a bed to sleep in, for a future she never thought she'd have." She looked up, eyes shining. "You can change everything. You have that power. I'm just me." Lucas closed the distance between them, stopping just an arm's length away. "Grace, do you want to know what I see? I see the only person who didn't run when things got dangerous. I see someone who risked her life fighting for justice, not just for herself, but for people she'll never meet. Someone who pulled me back from the edge when I was ready to give up." Grace lowered her eyes, fiddling with the strap of her backpack. "You don't have to fight this for me. I'm strong enough to do it on my own. You're just..." Her voice softened. "You're just tired of losing Lucas. You don't want to lose me too, but you don't know how to be part of my life." Lucas's expression softened. He reached out, taking her hand in both of his, warm and steady. "You don't have to be anyone but yourself. Do you know why I let you stay? Why I need you here? Because you're the only person in my life who sees me as a man. Not a reason, not a title, not a mission. You make me want to be better, not just for revenge, but for hope." A tear rolled down Grace's cheek. "Why do you care?" "Lucas, why you?" He didn't let go of her hand. "Because you're the reason I'm still here. The reason I didn't die with the man I used to be. I brought you back. You didn't just survive. Grace, you're alive, and you taught me how to live again." She could barely breathe, her emotions swirling like a storm inside. "But what if I'm not enough for you? What if I'm never enough?" Lucas gently shook his head. "You're enough, more than enough. I don't want a perfect life. Grace, I want a real life with you in it. I don't care about money, fame, or revenge. Not anymore. I care about you. I care about us." For a long moment, they stood in silence. Grace let herself feel it. All the pain, all the hope, all the longing she thought was lost. She allowed herself to believe, just for a moment, that maybe she deserved this. "Finally," she whispered, "I don't know how to start over." "Lucas." He squeezed her hand tight. "Then let's figure it out together. No more running away. No more hiding. It's just us here now. In the soft light, their shadows intertwined on the wall. Grace slowly set down her backpack, tears streaming down her cheeks. But for the first time in years, she wasn't crying out of fear or loss, but because of the simple, terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, her story wasn't over. Lucas gently pulled her into his arms. "You're not alone, Grace. Not ever again." When Dawn quietly stepped into the warehouse, they stood side by side, facing whatever came next. Not as a millionaire and a waitress, not as a hero and a victim, but as two survivors who chose each other. Despite everything the world tried to take away, the warehouse was unusually quiet the next morning. Dusty sunlight filtered through cracked windows, illuminating papers and old wires that once recorded every act of Lucas's revenge. But now, the space no longer felt like a war room. It felt like a waiting room for justice, ready to close the chapter. Grace and Lucas sat side by side on a bench against the wall. Neither spoke much that day. The silence between them wasn't cold. It was filled with breaths, filled with something solid and real. Their hands found each other naturally. No words needed. As night fell, Grace stood in front of Lucas, holding the drive with everything they'd gathered. Names, accounts, recordings, every detail of Henry Vale's plan. "We've got it all," she said softly, eyes locked on him. "It's time." Lucas nodded. He'd spent years building up to this moment, chasing ghosts and collecting shadows. But now it was real, tangible, and terrifying. He turned to Grace. "Are you ready for what's coming? It won't be easy. I wasn't ready when I lost my dad, or when I had to spend 2 years working just to afford a bed. But I showed up anyway," she replied. Her voice was strong. "I'll be showing up right now too." Lucas's chest tightened. He had never met anyone like her. Hurt by life but unbroken, built from resilience, grief, and something unshakable. They anonymously uploaded these files to major news outlets. They sent hard copies to investigative journalists. Then they sat in the dark and waited. Within just a few hours, it began. Breaking news kept flashing across TV screens. Billionaire Henry Vale was exposed for involvement in financial manipulation and illegal asset holdings. Reporters rushed to verify, analyze, and confirm. Whistleblower documents flooded the public eye like a dam breaking. Media frenzy erupted instantly. Vale's office was packed with people. The stock market shook. By the next morning, an official investigation had been announced, but the world didn't stop to celebrate. Grace and Lucas knew their work wasn't done yet. The biggest battle was still ahead. Grace was called to testify as a victim and direct witness. Her testimony would play a crucial role in shaping the human side of the case. At first, the thought of facing a courtroom full of strangers made her anxious, but Lucas never left her side. When the day came, she stood there in a simple, dignified navy blue dress. She didn't wear makeup to hide her past. She carried it like armor. At the stand, her voice was calm. "My dad was a quiet man," she began, eyes on the jury. "He worked at a small business for 20 years. One day, he trusted the wrong person. That person was Henry Vale. Within 6 months, we lost everything we had. Our home, my college fund, my dad's hope." She paused, her voice softer. "He took his own life 3 weeks later." A sharp breath echoed through the room. "I spent the next few years angry, scared, ashamed until I met someone who showed me that truth is the only way to heal. So, I'm here not for revenge, but to stop this from happening again." Lucas watched from the back of the room. He had seen agents face gunfire, risk everything, but none could compare to the courage Grace showed that day. After the hearing, Grace stepped outside into the sunlight. She took a breath that carried both the taste of victory and sorrow at once. She turned and saw Lucas waiting for her across the stairs. They walked silently toward the car. The weight of, "You did it," he said. "No," she replied. "We did it." They walked toward the car in silence, the burden of many years slowly lifting. As they left the courthouse, Grace asked, "What happens now when the cameras turn off? When the headlines fade?" Lucas was silent for a moment before answering. "I spent so much time chasing justice that I forgot what life would be like without a war to fight. But today, standing there, I realized I don't need those headlines. I don't need revenge. He looked at her, eyes gentle. "I just need you." Grace looked down, her heart full and breaking at the same time. "I'm scared," she whispered, "that this is too good to be true." Lucas reached out and took her hand. "Then let's make it true." They drove in silence until Lucas stopped at a quiet park, the sun beginning to set behind the trees. He stepped out first, then walked around to her side of the car. Grace joined him on the grass, the breeze brushing her face, carrying the scent of a new beginning. He once thought if he could tear off the mask, he'd be free. He said, but he was wrong. He turned to her, voice trembling with emotion. "If I lose everything again, my name, my wealth, my fight, it won't matter. As long as you're by my side, you're not just part of the story." Grace. "You're the ending I never saw coming." Tears welled in Grace's eyes. She raised her hand, gently caressing his face. "And you're the reason I believe in second chances." They stood there, wrapped in silence, and in each other. No longer fugitives, no longer shadows, just two people who chose to stop running. Two hearts still healing, but healing together. And when Lucas bent down and kissed her forehead, it wasn't a promise forever. It was a vow for today. Because every day they would, that was a vow for today. Because every day they would choose to stand strong, not in fear, but truly together. The wooden house sat quietly at the foot of the mountain, its wood faded by time and weather, the porch covered in wildflowers swaying gently in the morning breeze. A year had passed since the world watched Henry Vale fall from his throne. A year since Grace and Lucas stopped running. Now, they lived simply. Lucas spent his days restoring old furniture and tending to a modest garden in the backyard. Grace had started writing her first book. The Car That Changed Everything was nearly finished. Some chapters were rough, full of storms and loss, while others were gentle and filled with quiet redemption. It wasn't about exposing Vale. It was about how the most unexpected moments, like stepping into a car by mistake, can lead to everything that really matters. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Grace sat at the kitchen table, typing slowly, lost in thought. Lucas came in carrying a bundle of firewood, setting it down with a soft grunt. "Are you almost done?" he asked, brushing dust off his hands. Grace smiled. "Just one more page." Before Grace smiled, "Just one more page." Before Lucas could answer, a knock came at the door. They looked at each other, surprised to have a visitor. Lucas moved first, carefully opening the door. An elderly woman stood outside, her gray coat buttoned tight, hands trembling. She looked up at Grace, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry for coming without warning," she said softly, her voice shaking. "You are Grace, aren't you, Grace Holloway?" Grace nodded slowly. "Yes. How can I help you?" The woman stepped forward. "My name is Linda. My son. He was one of the whistleblowers at Vale's company. They destroyed him. He couldn't prove anything. He tried to fight, but he didn't make it." Grace's throat tightened. "But thanks to you," Linda continued, "everyone now knows the truth. Because of what he did. He didn't die in vain." She reached out and took Grace's hand. "I just came to say thank you." Then she hugged Grace, a hug full of sorrow, gratitude, and something else. Peace. Silent tears rolled down Grace's cheeks as she returned the embrace. When Linda finally stepped away, Lucas appeared behind Grace and wrapped his arms around her waist, calming her. They watched Linda walk away, disappearing down the tree-lined gravel path. The sun slowly set behind the mountains, casting a golden glow over the valley. Lucas kissed Grace's temple, and together they stepped out onto the porch. They stood in silence, looking out over the wide-open fields. No sirens, no shadows, no secrets, just the wind rustling through the leaves and the steady rhythm of two hearts finally finding a place to rest. No one chasing, no one running, and in that stillness, held tightly in each other's arms, they understood something deep and true. They survived. They chose each other. And finally, they came home. In the quiet unraveling of Grace's rainy night, we're reminded that life doesn't always change with grand gestures. It shifts in unexpected moments, like stepping into the wrong car or crossing paths with a stranger who sees something more in us than we see in ourselves. Her story is a testament to resilience, to showing up even when the world feels heavy, and to how a single mistake can lead to a redemption neither party knew they were searching for. If Grace's journey moved you, take a moment to support her not just with words, but with belief in second chances. What do you think she should do next? Should she trust the road she's now on, or turn back before it's too late? Leave your thoughts in the comments, we'd love to hear them. And if stories like this make your heart beat a little slower, a little deeper, don't miss out on what's next. Subscribe to Touching Tales Hub and join a growing community that believes in hope, kindness, and the beauty of unlikely connections. Because the next story might just be yours.